Okay, this is our week 7 HOA meeting for group 4, and I'm Lindsay.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Danielle.
All right, so we can just jump right in, I guess. So the first question after reading this book called The Sacred Duty is, how has your understanding and perception increased on the process of international policy and law? Anyone who wants to take that away can do so.
I guess I'll start then.
Okay.
I felt like it was really, the international law is really haphazard, personally. And NGOs are effectively, like he was talking about in the book, like the people of international law system. And the House and the Senate are like the delegates from the different countries. And what struck me about their international law is like the delegates don't even want to be there, like they were saying. And I really like how they said, we negotiate and sign these agreements, but we just want to go home. We tend to ignore them. Like if our law system was was like the way our international law system and policies are created, like we'd be screwed. Sorry, that was really harsh language. We would be in trouble. So I really liked what he said in the book, or what he said in his speech, where he's like, slow down and look at this. You're creating binding law by a process that doesn't have good democratic input. The people back at home don't know the rules you're coming up with, and furthermore, it appears that the people back home would disagree with a lot of these rules. So that's kind of how I feel about international policy and law, is it's haphazard.
It's haphazard.
Yeah.
I like it.
I remember, sorry, my dog is my microphone muted, or can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, that's weird. It was telling me my microphone is muted. Okay, anyways, I remember reading that and thinking that was really interesting, that they didn't want to be there. They'd rather be at home. So, okay, Danielle, what did you think?
I thought it was interesting how, like, even though everybody wanted him to keep his voice quiet, at least the Women's Caucus wanted him to be really, just to basically shut up, and they tried really hard to get him so he couldn't even talk, and he still did it, and it was interesting to know that, like, that, even if you just tried, somebody was trying to listen, because other people were trying to listen to him, even though they didn't necessarily know where to look. That was interesting.
Yeah.
I see. So what was
Make
your
an impact?
What was your okay. I said basically that I thought it was interesting, and I really liked what that lady said. I think he was waiting to see if he was going to be able to speak, and a lady came up to him, and you know, she's the one who just like wouldn't stop talking, and he sat there and listened to her, and she talked a lot about influence, and so I was like, oh, that's true, to see like where different influence comes from, that can make up the laws or policies, and that can be a good thing or a kind of scary thing, especially when they don't really care that much.
Right.
Yep.
I thought
it was interesting to see how that lady, who she was talking about from forever ago, I don't know, but
Ava.
Yeah.
Name was or something.
Yeah, the one that was from a long time ago that Lindsay was talking about. Her ideas were basically what was still behind the Women's Caucus, and it was still behind the UN. In fact, it had become even more a part of it. It was interesting how it kind of like got a little bit on steroids and started going without thinking about where it came from.
Yeah.
A little bit on steroids, yeah. That's fine. Okay, so What role did you see the Lord playing in Professor Wilkins' effort um, to advocate for families of the world, and what lessons did you learn for your own efforts?
I guess I'll go again. So the Lord played a role in like all of it, like getting him out there in the first place, and like softening his heart to even go. The beard and the school of origin getting mixed up with the Harvard law professor, that was a big one. Um, I felt that was like a little miracle. And then like big things happened too, like him being able to speak and being recognized and becoming a major influence among the delegates of the Western power, or opposed to the Western powers. I just learned that the Lord is directing all this, and it's His work, and He'll help guide or influence people along the way if you just take a leap of faith and actually try.
Yeah,
help.
actually listen.
Right.
To how to yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Danielle, what about you?
I thought it was interesting to see how like not only had the Lord helped him along the way, like in the meantime, like we just talked about, he also helped him like beforehand because they talked about how he had done work for Deseret News, and that gave him the skill to on how to write a paper in such a little time without going step by step and then rewriting like he was used to doing because of law.
That's such a good point.
That is a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I would stress out so bad. I was thinking that. I don't know if that's one of our later questions or not, and that's why I was thinking of it. But actually, I think it's in my answer. Hold on. I felt like he received a lot of promptings throughout the whole thing, and I guess the most impressive thing to me was that even though he didn't want to go, like Susan called him or whatever and was like, you need to do something, he didn't want to. Like, he had other plans for his summer and he wanted to spend time with his family, and he went anyway. And I feel like, well, obviously it's easier to take the easier choice and the things that you would rather do. Like, we would rather go on vacation than go to work, but we still have to go to work,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was impressive that he was obedient to promptings and to feelings that he got, that he actually really did need to go, and he had no idea what it would turn out like, and he felt unprepared comparative to what he normally feels like, because he gets to spend a lot more time on what he's talking about, basically. So I would have been scared. I would have been really scared to be in that situation, and honestly, I don't know that I could have done it. So I guess a lot of that's really, really impressive to me, is that he was just obedient and it worked out because it was supposed to, right?
Yeah. I feel like sacrifice is a principle of action. The fact that he sacrificed so much, it just allowed the Lord to work, I think, in ways that we don't understand in the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really cool.
I like that. Okay. So even though the book was largely about Richard Wilkins' experience, what important supporting roles did you see others playing in this account? And why is it important to recognize this?
I thought that his friend Susan had a very big role because she believed in him in the first place, that she bothered to tell him about the event that was going on. Also, the other UN workers, they did a lot of time at the tables and the booths telling people about what they were talking about, which actually got him nominated for one of the slots to talk. So they did a lot. Also, Susan stayed up. He mentioned how Susan had stayed up all night working on the computer, so she did a lot of stuff, a lot of work and sacrifice there.
Yeah. I also wonder, like, I thought about that, and Susan probably had to be listening to promptings too, because how else or why else would she be so adamant about it? I mean, I know that, she knew it was important, but I think it even said that. It's like she had to have felt something too to, like, keep pestering him, kind of, to encouraging him to go, because he changed his no to a maybe to a yes, and she was there the whole time trying to convince him. So she had to be following promptings too, because she knew for whatever reason it was really important this time. So.
Yeah. It's neat that she was persistent listening to the Spirit.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when that happens, like I do it and then like I follow through with something and then like I just think, oh, if it didn't work out, I'm like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't meant to be. But the thing is, like, who knows? Like, maybe the Lord is, like, directing me to do it, like, consistently and trying to tell me that there's something more if I just give more.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's something I struggle with, too. Because, sometimes it is just it's not going to work out. But, yeah, other times... Because, like, in this situation, it took a lot. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I would have been that valiant to listen to everything that he's supposed to do. It seems like no matter what, he's like, okay, I'll do it. I'm like, wow, that takes strength.
Yeah, I agree. I would have just been like, oh, I told him, I'm done.
Yeah.
Wipe my hands clean. All done.
So, yeah. Definitely. I
was going to say, the people that I also noticed was the role that his wife played in all of it was really cool. She really helped direct him to the proclamation. Like in that time where he just didn't know what to do. Like she was a little TM, a tender mercy.
A little TM.
A little TM in his life.
That's awesome.
So also the Elders Quorum president from Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah.
He was a big part of that too. It almost seemed like he had the strings to pull to get him into different places, which I thought was cool. I just think that, like, as it applies to us, have you guys ever heard that analogy before, where like the Lord's work is like an orchestra, and we're His symphony? It's so cliche. Yeah. Oh, okay, all right. Well, but when you think about it, though, like there is no way that this was a solo act of just Richard Wilkins. It took so many different pieces in order for the whole thing to manifest in this beautiful way. Like, I just think that if we compare it to an orchestra, like the Lord is conducting it, He can see all the pieces, all of the oboes and the winds and the percussion, and together, like, He can create this beautiful thing that we can't really understand just based on our little piece of music that's in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I like that. Well, and I feel like that's probably what's wrong with some people in pride, like taking all of that and then saying, this is all me, and nothing else helped me, or nobody else, and la la la. So I think he also had to be really humble to recognize that too. Is like, this was not just me.
Right.
Well, then, another thing I was gonna say is I thought it was impressive that his wife was so, I don't even know the right word to say. She felt really strongly about the proclamation, but it had just barely been given out, like it was new. And so to me, it's like, Well, now that it's been here a long time, or a while at least, I grew up with it. It seems really normal to reference it and talk about it and everything, but back then it's like you could have just brushed it off as like another remark that a prophet said. I mean, I know that sounds horrible, but you could have really just brushed it off as like, oh, it's just that new thing. But she really like glommed onto it and used it. I was like, wow, that's really impressive too. Because I don't know that I would have recognized that either right away. Of like, that's important. But
Yeah.
anyways, that's just me.
That makes me think, like, why do you think the Lord had the prophet give it to the Relief Society women?
Yeah.
Because of instances like this, where women glom
Exactly.
onto it, and it's
We're
like,
better glommers.
they're better glompers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So the next question says, ponder your readings from a sacred duty. What are some consequences and risks of minimizing or eliminating family and religion from public policy?
I guess I'll start.
Okay.
Okay, so focusing too much on the individual is a consequence. Well, it'll just doing that will inevitably lead to the major issue of other rights. I don't know how to explain this. I didn't write it very well either, so
I know.
so I can't
I
really
kind of
explain it.
struggled.
Okay, I'll give you an example. So, for instance, if we focus too much on the child's rights, then that will lead to the other group losing their rights, like parents losing their rights. So focusing too much on individuals leads ultimately to other groups not being able to have their rights. So minimizing or eliminating religion and family. What else I say? Oh, also a consequence in believing that we're just a product of a social construct or social construction. In other words, just nature. No, just nurture. Is that people will forget or lose emphasis on the fact that we're sons and daughters of God. Someone just banged on my wall. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's creepy.
So scary. Okay. That was so weird. Okay. So that's a consequence as well. Forgetting that the family is a fundamental unit of society is a consequence. These are just not, I can't really explain these very well. Okay, if an individual is all that matters, maybe we should move on to someone else and come back to me.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not doing very well right now.
Okay, Danielle, what did you come up with?
Okay.
Okay, I kind of like said what Melissa has already said. I didn't go further, so I'm curious what she said. But I kind of went to the next question, and I just said, to keep religion and families in public policy, I just was like, we can support media that supports religion and family, because what we feed ourselves with the media is what it's the ideas we're feeding ourselves with. So if we support those, then maybe other people will go, oh, well, lots of people support this one, why don't I watch it? Or the media will go, oh, people like this stuff, why don't we do more of it? Stuff like that. And I thought that the author made some pretty realistic expectations when it comes to how we can make our voices heard. In terms of we can just do things at home by like posting videos about things that we think and for others to watch, and other people can watch it and go, oh, so that's how they think. Oh, so they actually do care about people. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's true. I didn't even think of that. Honestly, you guys are a lot better about coming up with specifics. I was just I think I just kind of grouped it into one thing. I'm trying to find where I answered this. Hold on. Yeah, I just said that there's a lot of risks and consequences associated with minimizing or eliminating family religion from public policy because um, I think Melissa kind of touched on this. It's like if 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 the focus is taken away, then generally we would drift further and further away from what's good, and we could get into a pickle. We could get into a lot of trouble that way, and it could start a bad trend. So yeah, there's a lot of risks and consequences that would go along with that. But like I said, I didn't think of anything specific. So kudos to you guys doing that, because I just kind of said there's a lot that could go wrong. So.
Okay, I have thought of some more. Okay, so about the individual, if we focus too much on the individual and that the individual is all that matters, then it becomes really easy to view others as worthless individuals and seek to remove those individuals from our population through things like eugenics and through abortion. So that's a consequence of removing family and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, so forgetting that the family is the fundamental unit of society, forgetting that allows the policymakers to justify moms working outside the home and also funding all-day daycares.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not good for the children, not good for the parents. The whole family unit suffers because of that.
Right.
And by eliminating policies about the family, we are essentially deconstructing the family rather than building it up like he was talking about.
Yeah. I know. I remember. Oh, sorry.
No, that's good.
I thought it was kind of sad that their view of stay-at-home mothers was what was the word they used? It was like they're being oppressed, basically. Like that would be the worst thing ever, and they need to get out, and that it would be so much better if they were working. And
yeah,
I just thought that was kind of sad.
Yeah.
But,
also, ultimately, getting rid of these policies will lead to moral relativism. That's a consequence. Moral relativism is like morals are just relative to whatever the situation is. There's no such thing as fixed morals. I think that Alva Myrdal, I think that's what her name was. She wrote, or they wrote this about her: religious zeal fighting for good that is defined by what else really? Herself and her scholar heroes. For all the fancy definitions of rationalism, in the end, it has to be defined as what makes sense to the rationalist herself. So morals are just relative to whatever she thinks is moral, and because morality to her does not include the family or the family unit, it just ultimately breaks apart the whole purpose of that unit.
Yeah. That's great. Like I said, you went way more into it, but yeah, I completely agree. Okay, so our last question says, based on a sacred duty, what do you think we can do about it? Does the author implicitly or explicitly make realistic suggestions for ordinary citizens as well as those in a position of power and influence, and provide examples?
So, okay, the author didn't really mention this explicitly or implicitly necessarily. So, but when you think about it, the Women's Caucus is made of individual members, mothers, daughters, aunts, and neighbors, and we can have influence on these women individually, and if we follow the Spirit, we might be able to help soften their hearts. And I think that that's something that we can do to help influence this movement is work individually, little by little, one person at a time. Sometimes you can have huge influence, you know, where you stand in front of a group of delegates and be able to change the whole direction of a conference. But most of the time, it's going to be one by one. And yeah, another thing I noticed, I guess this was more implicit. So we can support non-governmental organizations, NGOs, who are attending the conference. We can support them outside of them actually going to the conference. So we can elect, or no, this is what I was thinking. So we can give them money, or we can you know, write articles and help link them to our articles. We can also elect individuals to create policies and pass laws that sympathize with the family. We can learn about our constitutional heritage and teach our children that it's all about we the people. We can learn about the proclamation and use it to uphold the values of traditional families. And that's what I have.
I feel like you. Oh, that was awesome. Danielle, did you say anything different?
So last time when I was talking, I was actually
you said it.
That question.
You answered that question. I know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So she kind of, yeah.
I remember that, but I didn't write it down. I remember you saying that. Sorry, I'm not paying attention. It was a double negative. Okay, so I said, if I can find my answer again. I mean, I didn't say as much as Melissa did, but I feel like I said the same-ish thing. And that's just like, you know, doing the best we can. I think that we all have different talents or different contributions that we can make as advocates. And even though the book focused more on just the author, I compared it to listening to prompting. So I thought, you know, anybody, big or small, will, you know, can have promptings and follow through with them so they can play their part. You know, I thought it was a good lesson about that. And so I said, no one person is insignificant when they're trying to help, like when they're working for the good. So that's what I said for that one. Okay, well that looks like that's it. But do you have anything to add?
No, I'm gonna go grab my baby.
No? Okay. I'll start the summary. That's okay. Okay. So let me do the summary. So the first question was, having completed the book, how has your understanding and perception increased on the process of international policy and law? I said that it's interesting seeing where the influence comes from and what turns into different laws or policies. Melissa said it's haphazard, and Danielle said that it was, I mean, it makes an impact. What role did you see the Lord playing in Professor Wilkins' efforts to advocate for the families of the world, and what lessons did you learn from your own efforts? I said that Professor Wilkins received a lot of promptings throughout his efforts to advocate for families of the world, and it just makes me want to be better. It makes me want to follow promptings, even if I'm scared or unsure of how to react to them. And Melissa said, as far as the Lord's role, he was in all of it. He got him to go. He was involved with the beard, the story of origin getting messed up, and being able to speak and be recognized. So the Lord was in all of that. And then Danielle mentioned that the Lord helped him beforehand by preparing him with necessary skills, like where he had worked before and being able to write. And then the next question said, even though the book was largely about Richard Wilkins' experience, what important supporting roles did you see others playing in this account, and why is it important to recognize this? I said that I thought his wife was a huge supporting role. She was there for him on the phone to encourage him and help him continue on when he was concerned. And then obviously the Lord was there. He was able to pray, and he was able to go to church. And I said it's important to recognize supporting roles because it allows us to see that we don't need to go through challenges alone. Melissa said that she thought his wife was played a big role. She helped direct him to the proclamation. Also, the Elders Quorum president from Kenya, he had the strings to pull to get him into different places. And Melissa also compared us to the Lord's Orchestra. Danielle said that she thought his friend Susan was a big influence because she believed in him and encouraged him and did a lot of work while she was there with him. Also, the UN workers telling people about him and what he was all about. The next question said, ponder your readings from a sacred duty. What are some consequences and risks of minimizing or eliminating family and religion from public policy? And I said, I feel like if those things are eliminated or minimalized, policies would be farther and farther away from what is actually good for us as people, and we could get into a lot of trouble. Melissa said, focusing on specialized rights would be a risk, and the consequence is thinking that we're just a part of a big social construct, and we would lose sight of who we really are. Also, if we focus too much on the individual, it's easy to view others as useless individuals. An example of that would be abortion, and it could lead to moral relativism. And then Danielle said, to keep religion and families in public policy, we can support the media that supports that cause, and we ourselves can put out our own media of what we think is right. The last question said, based on a sacred duty, what do you think we can do about it? Does the author implicitly or explicitly make realistic suggestions for ordinary citizens as well as those in a position of power and influence? Provide examples. I said, I think that it's our duty to do the best we can. I think everyone has different talents and contributions that they can make to advocate and support the family, and everyone can listen to promptings and do their part. Melissa said we can have influence on those involved in the caucus. We can help soften hearts with individuals a little bit at a time. We can also elect individuals that sympathize with the family. We can learn about our constitutional heritage, and we can learn about the proclamation. So, if you guys don't have anything else to add, I'll go ahead and end the broadcast. Are you good? Mm-hmm. Cool. All right.